Welcome to the Saturday Cup of Joe podcast. This podcast is dedicated to EAS employees of the U.S. Postal Service and members of the National Association of Postal Supervisors. So, pour yourself a cup of coffee and join us for today's episode. And now, here's your host, Robert Wakefield.
Good morning, Branch 32, and good morning to all of our EAS friends across the country. Thank you so much for listening to the Saturday Cup of Joe podcast presented by the Nashville Post Office Credit Union. I'm Robert Wakefield, president of Branch 32. Thank you so much. That is so nice. Please be seated. Got a lot to talk about today. It's going to be a great show, so get ready and pour that first cup. Big news from the Nashville Post Office Credit Union. We're now offering money market accounts. That's right. Take your savings to the next level with competitive rates and more flexibility. You can call us today or stop by the branch to learn how you can start growing your money. Your brighter financial future begins here. The Nashville Post Office Credit Union, people helping people since 1925. And for our first cup this morning, I want to talk about getting the work done one step at a time. That was the theme for the 2025 Legislative Training Seminar that just took place April 6th to the 9th at the Crystal Gateway Marriott Hotel located in Arlington, Virginia. It was a great time to see everyone. I saw a lot of folks from all over the country. It was great to see everyone. I got to meet the contingent from Hawaii. We had lunch with them. That was awesome. And also from Montana, we met some people from Montana, which was really, really cool. But it was a great time to get together and get some training done as we go to Capitol Hill. So Bob Levy, the NAP's Director of Legislative and Political Affairs, led us through the bills to co-sponsor. And let me share just a couple of these with you that you need to contact your congressman about. Then I'm going to tell you about our day. HRES 70 expresses support for the Postal Service as an independent establishment of the government and opposition to postal privatization. Now, this is a non-binding House of Representatives resolution, and it just simply declares that the House is opposed to privatization of the U.S. Postal Service. Now, one of my favorite bills was H.R. 1560, the Postal Supervisors and Managers Fairness Act, introduced by Representatives Jerry Conley of Virginia and Michael Bost of Illinois. And this was introduced back in February 25th of 2025. The bill provides for a timely start of pay talks between EAS postal employees and the Postal Service. And it just simply means that the pay talks would start 60 days prior to the expiration of the existing pay agreement we have with the EAS employees. That's not that big of a deal. And it also makes the Federal Mediation and Conciliation Service fact-finding panel, if we have to go to fact-finding, it would make their decision binding. So this is a great bill. It costs the taxpayers nothing. So H.R. 1560 was a good one. We've been trying to get H.R. 1559 passed for a number of years, the Postal Employee Appeal Rights Amendment Act. There are about 5,000 non-supervisory managerial postal employees that do not have MSPB rights. So that's what that's about. And I'll share one more with you. It's the, H.R. 491, the Equal COLA Act. The bill would create parity between the cost of living adjustments with respect to FERS employees' annuities and CSRS annuities. So that's just a few of the bills that we took to Capitol Hill and went through the training on. and discussed that Bob did a great job on training us on what we need to do. In the afternoon session on Monday, the highlight for me was Commissioner Tom Day of the Postal Regulatory Commission. Remember that name, Tom Day. He was incredible. This is a guy who used to work for the Postal Service. He's, if I remember right, he got his degree in engineering and all this good stuff. And he came and talked to us, and his name has been proposed as the next Postmaster General. And this guy was just incredible. Look him up. Tom Day. I thought he was one of the most incredible people we heard all weekend. And I'm just going to be honest with you. This is my opinion, and it ought to be yours. I hope he gets it. He was really, really good talking about the Postal Service and changes that need to be made. He was even asked the question, what would you do on day one? And he said something to the effect that it's not going to be fixed in one day, but we would start the process of trying to get the Postal Service a viable connection to the American people once again. He was excellent. Tom Day, be sure to look that up. Then we also met Adam Campbell, who is over Voter Voice. If you've ever gone to the naps.org site and under the legislative pages there, you can see that you can go on there and send an email to your representative discussing the bills that NAPS wants passed. They always send us messaging out to ask us to ask our representatives to support things, and this is a great way to do it. And Adam was the guy that really put all this stuff together. So, after our training on April 7th, it was time to go to the Capitol. That was Tuesday, April the 8th. Now, my branch, Branch 32, and Larry Shropshire, he went with us as well from branch. I forgot what branch Larry's in. He's in a branch. Anyway, we all rode the train in, which was fun. We rode it to Union Station, not the metro, but the actual train. And we took a train ride into Union Station. And Tennessee Tuesday takes place every Tuesday for the Tennessee Senators. They had biscuits and coffee, and all of their aides were there. And we had our picture made with both of the state senators and discussed the postal issues with their aides and gave them a copy of the briefing. And that was a real nice thing. And then we walked across in front of the Capitol over to the House of Representatives office buildings. Now, I got to tell you, every time I walk in front of that Capitol building, I feel so American. I feel so good when I look at that building and think, wow, this is where laws are being passed. Well, in theory. It's where things happen, okay? So it's just an incredible feeling. And then when I get into the actual office of our representatives, the people that represent me in my state, and I tell them about postal issues, I just feel so good about this country. I feel good about what we're doing. I feel good about who we're representing, the people back home in our branches. It's just, to me, an incredible feeling. We got to meet with our two representatives, and they were very receptive to what we had to say. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to vote the way we'd like for them to, but at least they were receptive. And I thought that was an incredible thing in and of itself. So a lot of walking. I think we ended up doing 17,000 steps that day. It was a tiring day, but it's a great day to get out there to lobby our representatives to hear our voice, to what we had to say. But the highlight of the day had to be the rally on the west side of the Capitol building. That's the side where I think they do the swearing in of the president. And you can see the Washington Monument across the way. We had a rally. We had these signs that we were holding up. The mail is for all, and the mail is not for sale. We were chanting that. You know, it was so much fun, and had different speakers come in and talk about, you know, the mail is not for sale and all that good stuff. But it was the first time that I've ever done a rally. I've never been a part of one. I've never held a sign. but it felt really good to get out there and do that this time. And it was cold. The wind was blowing about 100 miles an hour. It wasn't 100, but it was windy, and it was really cool and cold out there. But about 500 of us were out there just holding up the signs and shouting, "The mail is not for sale. The mail is not for sale." All right. So that's kind of my take on LTS. I'm going to introduce you in our second cup to two first-timers who got to go to the legislative training seminar for the very first time. We'll be right back. Do you know at the Nashville Post Office Credit Union, you can save time and money by applying for a loan online. We strive to be your number one lending source, and you can apply for many of our loans right there off your computer. You can use our electronic signature service to be able to sign your loan documents without ever stepping into our branch. So take advantage of our great loan rates and the convenience of our online loan application. Visit npocu.org. And for the second cup today, I thought it'd be really, really neat to bring in our first timers that went to LTS for the very first time, and they are Denise Brewington and Richard Morgan. Thank y'all so much for being on the Saturday Cup of Joe.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Well, thank y'all. All right, here we go. So I wanted to get you guys on the podcast today because I wanted to get your reaction to your very first legislative training seminar that was held this past weekend in Alexandria, Virginia. So I'll start with you, Denise. We'll just start with you. What was your biggest surprise of the weekend?
Well, I had no idea of what I was doing. So my biggest surprise was how big it was, because there was a lot of people there from NAPS and our training we got the day before we actually went to the Capitol, was very interesting, and getting to learn about the steps we needed to take and what this all entailed and the bills we needed to cover. So that was my biggest surprise, was the size.
How big the room was and how many people were there, because there was about over 500 people there.
Correct.
So that was your biggest surprise. What about you, Richard?
My biggest surprise was the camaraderie between everybody. The people put their differences aside from different unions, got together, and they stood up for a cause that they believed in. And when we went and spoke with representatives, they actually listened to what we said, that to me, that was a huge surprise for me to have such a camaraderie and understanding from the representatives, and it was really just great.
Did y'all enjoy going to Capitol Hill?
I really did.
What was your favorite thing about Capitol Hill?
Well, just getting to see the inside offices of the representatives and the senators, and getting to use the tunnels from one to the other, just getting to know the workings of what their daily life was. Mm-hmm. But I also love the buildings and the history. Just makes you feel like you're part of the United States. It just makes you feel, just a part of something bigger than yourself.
That's right. What about you, Richard? What was your favorite part about meeting with the representatives?
Well, when I walked to Capitol Hill, I walked in and I felt like a true American, for one thing. Mm-hmm. And the representatives, they listen to you. The people that worked for the representatives, they listened to you. Mm-hmm. They were nice. They were, it's hard for me to explain, but I felt like my voice and my opinions and what I had to say actually mattered.
Yeah, that's great, isn't it? That's a great part of it. Let me ask you two this question, because it's called the Legislative Training Seminar because there's training involved. And so y'all talk about a little bit, I'll start with you this time, Richard. Talk about a little bit about the training, what you got from the training. Was it helpful?
So to me, it was extremely helpful. It let when I went to that training, it was kind of a shock to see that many people there to learn the LTS, about LTS. And we had special speakers that gave us their inputs. They asked for our inputs. And to be quite honest, I've learned a great deal, so much that I did not know when it comes to the Postal Service, the NAPS, and the legislature, and what all it entails and what we are actually trying to achieve. And it helped me get a completely better understanding of what went on.
Okay, that's awesome. What about you, Denise? What did you think about the training?
Like Richard said, I do think it was informative. I liked learning about the bills that, I hear about the bills that I need to support and I see it, but getting to learn the in-depth of what the bills pertain to and how they'll help the Postal Service and why we need them passed, that helped me understand what I needed to do and make sure that I do support the bills and go in and register and get them, let my senator and my congressman know that they need to support this to continue with my vote and stay in there.
That's great. And that was one thing that we all learned from the legislative training seminar was how easy it is to get your voice heard through that electronic voter voice thing that's on the national website. So that's a great thing. So in the last few minutes that I have with you guys, I want you to rate your LTS experience. What was it that you liked, what you didn't like, but just give it an overall rating. Denise, we'll start with you.
Well, I would say a 9. I mean, it could be a 10, but
are you going to deduct a point for the weather?
The weather, the chilliness. I'm so thankful I took a coat because it was chilly. It was a little chilly. Going north in the beginning of April is a little chilly. So I'm thankful for pants and closed-toed shoes and jacket. There you go.
There you go. So, but I interrupted you. I'm sorry about that. But your overall experiences was a 9.
I would say yes.
Okay. All right. What about you, Richard?
So 1 out of 10, I would probably give it a 15.
Okay, good.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't ask for no better. The people I was with, you couldn't ask for no better. Mm-hmm. The training, I couldn't ask for no better. And the overall experience, I couldn't ask for no better. You're going to have hiccups. For example, the hotel, we had a little hiccup, but it was resolved in a good, timely manner. You're going to have that. But as far as an experience, I'm telling you, I cannot ask for anything better. So as far as my rating is going to be a 15.
Well,
I would love to go back. If first chance I get, I would love to go back.
That is awesome. That is so good. Well, I'm so glad that both of you were able to get on the Saturday Cup of Joe podcast today to tell us about your experience and tell you what the first-timers look to LTS is all about. And I want to encourage, if you're listening to this podcast and you've never been to the legislative training seminar through your branch or even through Branch 32, we're going to send 2 more next year, first-timers. Get the experience. Go and see what Congress is all about. So that's all I have for today, and thank you both for being on the show.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Robert. And I'd like to say one thing before I go.
Okay.
The mail is not for sale.
The mail is not for sale.
The mail is not for sale.
Thank y'all so much for being on today.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for listening to today's Saturday Cup of Joe podcast presented by the Nashville Post Office Credit Union. You know what to do. Share, like, subscribe, all of those great things to make this podcast grow. And remember, every great weekend starts with a great cup of Joe. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for tuning in to the Saturday Cup of Joe podcast. Please note that the views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of Robert Wakefield and do not necessarily reflect the views of the National Association of Postal Supervisors. We welcome your questions and comments, so send those to SaturdayCupofJoe@gmail.com.